Alright guys, today we're going to take a look at the Concord Open Beta. I was actually genuinely curious about this because I've never played a hero shooter game before. I'm not much of a PvP multiplayer type of person. Never played Destiny either. So I want to take this opportunity to see how the game runs on PC, how it looks, and I'll share my thoughts about all that. Let's take a quick look at the settings. This is an Unreal Engine 5 game. And we do have a lot of options for anti-aliasing and upscaling. We have the regular old TAA, we have TSR, we have FSR, which has native AA and FSR3 frame generation, which is very nice. We have DLSS with DLAA and DLSS frame generation. We're using an RTX 4090 for this video actually, with a Ryzen 7800X 3D. If you guys want me to check out the 7900 XTX as well, let me know down below, and I probably will. And other than that, you don't have a ton of graphical options. You have shadows, textures, effects, and post-process. And I've gone ahead and maxed all those out. We're going to begin with 4K DLAA. Who should I try? Yeah, let's go with Tio. He's a ranger.
Take down the rival crew and collect their bounty cards.
This was my very first match in the game, and initial thoughts was, well, actually, I think the game actually looks pretty good. And for an Unreal Engine 5 game, running at native 4K with DLAA, I think we're getting pretty good performance here. But there are some little stutters. As far as frame rate, it's pretty good. Actually, it's higher than I thought it would be. But we do get a few little stutters here and there that can be a bit distracting. But maybe it's an Unreal Engine 5 thing, maybe it's a shader caching thing, it probably is, so maybe the longer you play the game, the smoother it runs. And again, it is in beta, so they could possibly add a proper shader compilation step. But we actually ended up winning this game. I never died, so let's move on to the next match, and I'll point out a couple things that I found to be a bit strange. Now, measuring the fluidity in this game, 1% lows in particular, can be a bit difficult because when you die, you have to choose another character, which is fine, but once you enter this character selection screen, the game locks itself to 120 FPS. And I don't know if this is because I have a 120 Hertz display, but that's what happens, and it just makes reading 1% lows in the long run challenging, basically.
No one will mourn.
The second thing is that the game can actually be a bit CPU heavy depending on what's happening on the screen, and some of these spells too can be very taxing on the GPU. So you'll see the FPS go from like 120 to 180 depending on what's going on. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't think you're going to be able to hit 200 plus FPS in this game with the current CPUs. And I'm assuming this, I don't have an i9-14900K, but just judging of what I'm getting here on the 7800X 3D. Now, personally for me, I think this is fine. I think the amount of FPS that we're currently getting is really, really good. But we're going to check out DLSS Quality, where GPU bottleneck shouldn't be an issue, and then we can see exactly how taxing the game is on the CPU. We'll actually take a look at some DLSS Balanced as well, because why not? I'm actually genuinely curious. Anyway, let's check out some DLSS Quality.
Ah! We did it!
Now here's the settings. We've set DLSS to quality. Everything else is the same. Now this is going to be a different map than what we played on before. Actually, I don't think you can choose a map. At least I don't know how to, not yet. But I have to say, some of these cinematic shots can actually look pretty good. I'm a sucker for some good sci-fi presentation. And I mean, I have to say, as cringy as some of the characters are, like the artwork detail is actually really, really good. It's very high quality. Lip syncing too, actually, is very good. I think I'm going to go with Tio again. Yeah, let's do that. 4 of us versus 5 of them. Man, this is a second fight where it's been 4 of us versus 5 of them. I think someone's quitting last minute. Or maybe the matchmaking is broken. I don't know. I don't know if that slot can be filled while you play either. But if we look at our performance now, we're actually close and hitting 200 FPS in some of these cases. And now we're actually, I would say, we do hit some GPU limitations looking at the GPU use. But for the most part, I'd say we're CPU bound. And again, we're getting very close to 200 FPS, but doesn't look like we can really stay above that. We are going to check out DLSS Balanced as well, where we should be consistently CPU bound, at least I hope. But yeah, here we go again. You select the character, it drops to 120 FPS, which makes measuring 1% lows a nightmare, right? Because when you die and that screen goes from fades to black, it's like a giant little stutter that you wouldn't feel while you're playing, but it does happen, and that makes measuring 1% lows very challenging. But you can look at the frame time. It actually does pretty good, I would say. It's just whenever you die that there's like a bit of a hitch. But for the most part, I would say now we're more fluid, more consistent than we were at the very beginning of this video, where it was my very first fight in the game, right? So I think there is some shader caching stutters that are happening here, which is not really that surprising for Unreal Engine 5, right? I mean, we've seen this quite a few times. But anyway, I think we should take a look at DLSS Balance and just make sure that we're consistently CPU bound and see how it runs. And then also I wanted to try capping the FPS to 120, just because sometimes games can have better 1% lows when you cap the FPS, and they can be smoother. Is this going to be the case with this game? I guess we'll find out. But let's take a look at DLSS Balance first. Now here's the settings. We're just dropping DLSS to balance. Everything else is the same. And here we go, guys. Now our GPU use is in the high 60s, mid 70s. We're definitely consistently CPU bound in this scenario. And this is practically a good representation of the type of FPS you can get with a 7800X3D. Now I'm actually curious to see how this would compare to a 14900K, for example. But again, I stand by what I said, that I don't think you're going to be able to stay at 200 or beyond that consistently, right? There is scenarios here right now that would drop in as low as 115 FPS with GPU use in the mid 50s. There's a lot of stuff going on though. It was like a full party versus full party just there. So that's very interesting here. What's also interesting too is that as you cycle through some of these characters, there is like a little stutter. But again, during gameplay, it's not bad actually. It's pretty good. Rarely do you feel you get like a stutter that stands out. I definitely feel that the game is definitely running smoother than it was when we first launched it. So I do hope that they can do like a proper shader caching step at the beginning of the game, so that the game can be smooth. Because for a game like this, you want to be as smooth as you possibly can. But if you have a 240 hertz display, you could probably reach that with some frame generation. And you do have options. You have DLSS 3, you have FSR 3 frame generation, so that is actually great.
Come up here. We still got work to do.
Well, let's go ahead and check out 120 FPS cap, and then I'll just give my final thoughts on what I think of the game too. I'm gonna go back to 4K native with DLAA, and I've set a 120 FPS cap with Rivatuna Statistics Server. And to be honest, I don't think the game was really smoother. You still get these tiny little hitches here and there, but it felt fine. I mean, no problems. Now as far as the game itself, I've heard some of the comments, people saying that the time to kill is pretty high and the game feels slow. For me personally, I actually like the fact that the time to kill is so high, just because you know, I'm a noob. That's the truth. I don't play these games. This is my very first hero shooter, and I think having a bit higher time to kill gives you time to be a bit more strategic and counter. Like I played, what was that game, X Defiant? I was getting destroyed in that game. Every now and then I would get a few kills, but for the most part, if someone saw me first, I was dead. Here, you get a chance to kind of be a bit more strategic, and the party helps you out as well if you stick together and work as a team. So actually, I think I see the appeal of hero shooters, and while I don't have much experience with Overwatch 2 to compare it to, I have to say that I actually enjoyed the little bit that I've played this game. I think the shooting feels nice. I think characters are plenty fast. It depends on which character you play. They all have different speeds and type of weapons, but I felt the game was fine. I would love to have like a practice mode so I can get a feel for each character and their abilities and what they do, instead of just dropping in and but I mean, yeah, I actually enjoyed playing the game, if I'm being honest. I think, you know, character design is questionable. There is a couple that look alright, but for the most part, I don't know, they're not very appealing. I can't see myself buying any skins for any of these characters, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure that I can see myself even paying $40 for this game. But if it was free to play or $20, I'd probably pick it up and jump into the game and have some fun. As far as the performance, actually, I think as far as FPS, it's actually pretty good for an Unreal Engine 5 game. I just hope that they can fix some of these little hitches and stutters that happen during gameplay, and that's like my biggest complaint as far as performance goes. Other than that, there's plenty of features in the game. You have DLSS, you have FSR. There was no XeSS, I don't think, but you have FSR3 frame generation, you have DLSS frame generation. So that aspect, it is a feature-rich game, and it does actually look good graphically, like the maps and everything. You know, I like the maps actually. I think they're pretty good. They present some interesting scenarios to battle. But yeah, guys, that's my thoughts on the game. If you like the video, give it a like, and if you want to see similar content, consider subscribing. I'd appreciate that. Anyway, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.